Well, you're certainly right about that. We have a well-known scholar, and if you don't know him, then you will know him, and hopefully you pick up one of his books because it'll be a blessing to you, and get to learn more about what he's doing and what he's teaching out there for the world to know more about who God is and to love him more. And so without further ado, let's give Dr. Bill Mounce a warm ABF welcome this morning. And so we are certainly glad to have you here, Bill, as he told me to call him Bill, and I just told him, you know, being from Dallas, you're making it really hard on me to just go straight for the first name, but I will do that as he's requested. Yeah, Bill is down here for the last couple months, and before we get into it, Bill, can you tell us why you're here and what you've been doing down here with this special project that you're working on that Compass has been involved with?
Yeah, I live in the northeast corner of Washington State, and it's a little town, 530 people, and that's just fine with me. Live on a great river, but it gets really cold. We're 16 miles below Canada, and one set of my grandkids live in Tustin, so we come down for 2 months every year and warm up. And not much snow this year, but it's a lot warmer down here, let me tell you. Plus, we're from here originally, so we have other family and friends down here. So mostly just come down just to spend time with the grandkids, but I help run a ministry called biblicaltraining.org, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it later, but we were recording Professor Doug Moo on 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. Thank you for your studio. It works great. I can't get professors to come to my studio up in Ione, Washington in the winter because they don't want to dig through the snow and the ice. So we tried an experiment down here, and it worked really well. So we shot that class a week ago.
Yeah, did any of you get a chance to go? I know we had a few live attendees, mainly as TBI students, but anybody in here? I thought Ron actually said yes. I was like, really? But he was waving. But you can go to the next one, though, right?
Yeah.
How about tell them about that? Because maybe you'll get a few in here that might want to go.
Dr. Miles Van Pelt is coming out the week of the 16th, and he's going to lecture on Judges. So he'll do on Monday through Thursday, probably about 9 to 3. He'll be doing a seminary level class on Judges. And then on Friday, he'll do a lay level 3 to 4 hour with Miles, probably 5 hours on Judges. I did not realize this. I had someone else lined up to do Judges. And I told Miles, who's a good friend of mine, and he goes, no, don't have him. He's going to tell you the judges are terrible people. I thought they were terrible people. No, they're all types of Christ. They're good people. Come on, let me do Judges instead. So we might have dueling Judges classes and let people choose whether they want to know Samson was a good guy or a bad guy overall.
Well, that'll be fun. And so, we only have space for, I think, 15 or 20 in there. It's tight, but it's nice to be able to have live audience as you're teaching for hours, as you can imagine. And so, we'll send out some more information, and if you are available and want to check that out, and we'll check with Pastor Mark to make sure that it's not already maxed out, but I'm sure they'd love to have a full audience in there, just even in a tight studio. More on that. We'll get to the website and then the biblical training, which has been great and very fruitful, and it's accessible to anyone. We'll tell you more about that. But before we get down that line, Bill, I'd love to just go back to the foundation of your faith and tell us a little bit about your story, your testimony, and we'll go from there.
I have a very boring testimony. Raised in a Christian home. My dad was a professor and a pastor. Came to faith very early. It was real. I don't know really what I thought. My mom just said, "Billy, do you want to become a Christian?" And all I knew is I wanted to be on their side. So I said yes. And growth has been, for me, has been pretty steady, pretty constant. It was interesting, though, that seminary and grad school were the most difficult times spiritually for me. In seminary, all I cared about was getting A's to get into better grad school. Never went to church, and I suffered for it. Yeah, I can see you nodding. Yeah, that's not a good thing to do if you want to, in seminary, not go to church. But it was a dry time. In the grad school, I was the only single. I went to Aberdeen in Scotland, and I was the only single postgrad student there. Well, nobody wants to invite the single guy over, and it was just a very dry time for me spiritually. But I came back and I started teaching and got married, and things got back on track.
At what point did you know, or maybe it was early on because your father was a professor, but that you wanted to go down that route of, teaching others and from the academic standpoint?
Yeah, it wasn't right. It wasn't right at first. I got too many double negatives coming out. It was not a reaction against my father, but I never really thought about. I was a photography major, and I love photography. I love telling stories with pictures. And but then I made the mistake of taking a New Testament survey. I was at Western Kentucky University. Go Hilltoppers! And you probably never played Hilltoppers, did you?
No, but I know about them because they made the tournament quite a few times. They had good runs.
Yes, they did. Yeah. Jim McDaniels, and all 7 feet of them. Anyway, I digress. But Julia Scott was a professor, and I just fell in love with this stuff. And I knew if I wanted to study the Bible, that meant grad school. It meant learning Greek, and so that's what started me on the path.
And a lot of people, when they get into Greek, it's overwhelming. It blows their mind, and it didn't for you. So what was it that fascinated you or that challenged you or just gave you that desire, apart from God doing that? But what was it with Greek that made you sink your teeth in that?
I'm probably the only author of a Greek textbook that does not, where languages don't come naturally to me. Languages are really hard for me. My daughter's trilingual, lives in Berlin, PhD in art history. So I think the gene skipped me from my dad. But because languages were hard, I needed to find a different way to teach it. And my brain simplifies and categorizes things. That's the one thing it does right. And so I was looking at Greek, and I go, oh, this is a bad way to teach it, and there's got to be a better way to teach it. So it started me on trying to find a better way to teach Greek. And so the textbook's been very well received because it does make things, despite what you may have heard. Where is he?
Shay's back there. Yes.
The textbook makes it much simpler than other textbooks. So it's done really well. I got to tell you, Mr. Biola, Mr. Talbot, I spoke at Talbot years ago, and there were about 200 kids in there, and I started by saying, I just want to apologize for all of the sleepless nights that I caused you. And everyone was laughing, ha ha. I let it die down, then I said, I also want you to know that I forgive you for everything you've said about me in your dorm room. The room went dead quiet. And after about 5 seconds, he realized I was joking. But anyway, that's my one Talbot story.
So writing the book, and the book is one of the 2 books I feel like all seminaries, good seminaries use, between yours and David Allen Black's book as well. But I guess where did the idea come of, okay, let's put this into print and start writing a book on it versus I just love it and I want to study it for myself?
It's just, I love to categorize information. And it was a challenge is there a way to teach this language so that people can actually hear the words of Jesus and the words of Paul, and make it easy enough so that people who normally wouldn't be taking Dr. Black's book can actually learn this and use it. So it was more of a challenge than anything, and I realized that I really enjoyed it. And it was kind of hard to talk the publisher into publishing it. Stan Gundry, who was the senior executive publisher at Zondervan, was very happy with Machen. He didn't see a reason for it, but I had another editor that liked it, and we kind of snuck it in the back door, and then it just took off. Yeah.
And then as far as for the layperson that might look at it and say, all right, seminary students are saying bad things in their dorm room about Greek. How would you encourage someone that is new Christian or just even seasoned Christian to say, this is worth getting to and learning this?
What I realized was, I don't know if you're aware of this, but seminaries are dying. Alternate seminaries like CBI are popping up, trying to find a new way to prepare people for ministry. And when I see that, but then I see a hunger in churches for people to know something. I'm going to push a book here, just give you a heads up. So I said, there's got to be a way to teach Greek so that people can use the tools intelligently. So I wrote a book and a workbook called Greek for the Rest of Us. And the idea of this book is, with minimal memorization, if you want to use accordance or logos, you can do Greek word studies. You can read much better commentaries. You can see by translations they're doing what they're doing. And that's where I encourage people in general to go, because there's not a lot of memory work involved. You don't have to keep repeating luo, lue, slue. Yeah. And you don't have to do that. And so, because the computer tells it. But the problem is with a lot of these computer programs, it'll say it's a nominative plural, whatever. And you go, well, I don't know. What's a nominative? And so that's what the book teaches. So I encourage people to go that direction, unless they really want to be like Mike Fabaris, really wants to be a preacher or a really serious Bible student.
Awesome. And then after you got done with school, or maybe not fully after, but you also stepped into pastoral ministry. Tell us a little bit about that and that route. I
taught at Azusa Pacific for 10 years, exhausted, moved up to Spokane where some of my family was, and just took 5 years off, finished some writing projects, mostly the commentary on the pastorals. And then went out to Boston to Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary to run their Greek language program. And I'm a West Coast kid. That's just all there is to it. And if you've gone back and forth, it's there's a line in Sweet Home, Alabama, where you need a passport to go down here. Well, I think you need a passport to go to the East Coast, and the East Coast needs a passport. I mean, we are two different nations in many ways. And so it was mostly that, but I just wanted to preach. And it never really had come out in my mind how badly I wanted to do that. And so went back and planted a church in Spokane and worked there for a while.
Awesome. And then that's how you found out about the little town that you're in now, right?
Yeah. If you don't know it, being a PK, a pastor's kid, is like one of the hardest things. I feel bad. I can't.
You can turn it. They're
I
used
did
to
it once when the guy on the camera said, "Quit turning, you're moving out of frame." So anyway, it's nothing personal. Being a pastor's kid is really, really hard. You're expected to have all the answers. You're expected to be perfect, and you're generally the butt of all the jokes. And that's just the life of a PK. And I was a PK and felt it. My kids really felt it. So we found a cabin hour and a half north of Spokane, and just bought it just for the summers. It's on the best wakeboard water you've ever seen in your life. It's utterly amazing water. And then 3 years ago, we just moved up there full time.
Yeah, and then so that is you said 2 hours, hour and a half from Spokane.
Hour and a half from northern Spokane.
500 people.
530 people. Very, very interesting. It's one of those communities where you walk into church and they kind of look at you and, just small country kind of stuff, but lots of good people.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the website. It's biblicaltraining.org. Yeah. I want to make sure I get all my orgs and BillMounce.com.
Well, it's biblicaltraining.anything because I bought them all.
Okay, that too.
So just about any ending you want is going to redirect to our site.
Yeah, and so tell us the genesis of that. What made you? Because again, that's a big endeavor, and to say, hey, let's put this out there for free. Tell us about that.
I don't think I've ever told the story to this many people. People often say, "I was like, such a great idea, Bill. How did you think of it?" And the answer is, I didn't think of it. God told me to do it. I was preaching. My pastor was out of town. He wanted me to preach on the elder passage in 1 Timothy 5. Now I know why, because he thought I'd say things he couldn't say to the elders. And, that's a whole nother story. And right smack in the middle of a sentence, I heard a voice in my head. Never heard a voice in my head before. It scared the bejeebies out of me, except that I knew who it was. And the Lord said, "None of your elders are qualified. What are you going to do about it?" We went off and had a 3-minute conversation. I didn't remember none of it. It's going to be one of the first things I ask him. When I get there, I say, "What did we talk about?" But I know it happened because I finished the sentence, finished the sermon, sat down next to my wife, and I said, "Was that really strange when I stopped talking for 3 minutes?" She said, you didn't stop for 3 minutes. In fact, you need to learn to take a breath when you preach and slow down. So Narnia time is real. It's a very real thing. I'm actually reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe to my granddaughter right now. So anyway, Dallas and Gordon Conwell called me. They wanted me, among other things, to update their distance ed program. And I thought, well, here's how naive I was in leadership. Oh, if they just knew the Bible, they'd be good elders. So I said, I'm going to talk Gordon Conwell into giving away their distance ed program. Well, they had no intention of doing it. And so I just said, okay, I'll just start. And what's the interesting shift is because I knew so little about leadership, but I knew about content. And so I just started recording content, and we're up to over 200 classes, 2,400 hours. Jesus says, teach everyone everything that I've taught, right? Great Commission. So if you're going to teach everyone, it has to be free. You can't charge. 37% of our traffic is from outside the United States. Number 2 site's China. I don't know how they're getting in, but they're getting in. Anyway, yeah, I checked in 1 week we had 3,900 people from China log in. So anyway, yeah, it's really cool. So we've about 2,400 hours of instruction at all different levels. The basics are just for people who know nothing, all the way up to a full seminary. So that's what it is. What got lost in all of this, though, was the leadership track. And so the rest of the site's kind of running itself now. So I'm going back and trying to help churches. You guys, I've talked with Pastor Mike a lot about this. And you have a very interesting process for raising up leaders. It's very good. And so it's just doing a track where a church can come in and say, okay, if we're going to have healthy leaders, we have to be a healthy church. So let's get healthy first. And then how do you find and vet and then train and encourage your leadership? So that's the track that I'm focusing on now.
And I'm sure you've heard just some feedback from it. Can you share with us any stories of someone maybe emailing in or just fruit that has been shown to you? That, you don't see all of it, but
no,
has some been exposed to you that's been encouraging to you?
Yeah, we get testimonies nonstop. And in fact, you sound like one of my board members. More testimonies, Bill, more testimonies. Yeah, I mean, we get, the last one was actually Miles wrote me and said one of his colleagues from seminary had gone to Egypt to teach, and he had run into a group of men there. Said, tell Dr. Van Pelt how much we appreciate his class on the Old Testament. There's about 10 of us here in Egypt, and we're working through the Old Testament with him and learning it. I go, wow. One of the last testimonies too, came in from a pastor in the Philippines who couldn't afford to go to, and this is typical, can't afford to go to school, can't get any real education, and so his full training was on biblical training, and now he's out, teaching. There was a gal that took it was a kind of a diploma program, and she's over like 1,800 teachers in the Philippines, and we were her only source of education. So we get stories like that all the time. And frankly, we get stories from rural churches in the United States. And rural churches are very similar to churches overseas. Understaffed, underfunded, poor pastors mowing the lawn and doing everything else, and not trained. So we get stories from them that are very much like the stories we get from elsewhere. I'll tell you one really cool story. Kenya. Was it Kenya? Yeah, it was Kenya. Kenya passed a law that if you're going to be a pastor, you have to have a certificate. So they contacted a school in Canada we work with that uses our material, put together a $5 certification program where the Kenyan pastors can learn what they need to learn and then be legal pastors. And it cost them $5. And I think we scholarshiped half of them. So $5 is a lot of money in Kenya. A lot of money in Kenya. So, yeah, we get stories like that all the time.
That's awesome. What's next on the horizon, if you could share? Just obviously you have these classes, these tracks, leadership tracks that you're working on. Where do you see this going, or kind of what's your vision for it, as much as you want to share with us?
The next main initiative is translations. If you can get stuff into 10 languages, you can reach 3.8 billion people. Now, I tell people, just because you build a better mousetrap, if you don't have a network for distributing it, it's going to sit on the shelf. And so I'm spending most of my time trying to get networks in these different language groups. But we just got a very generous grant to start turning stuff into Spanish, trying to figure out a combination of AI and human proofing to make sure the AI got it right. Spanish, Hindi is, we got a guy that I've known for a while who's over 7,000 churches in India. And so we'll start getting everything into, we got some things in Hindi, but we'll get almost everything in Hindi. Yeah, so.
Asha's happy about that. Is there anything else out there like this? I mean, obviously, maybe not at your scale, but this is very unique and incredible to know that people all over the world have access to such rich material. But you'd wonder, like, has there been attempts at this and they just fall short, or maybe they're not on the radar or not?
Ted Hildebrandt tried at Gordon University, on his site, but it ended up being a one-man show, and that's really hard for him. Just about everyone else is for pay. They can't, and every time we go to ask someone's advice about the business and the ministry, the answer is always, well, charge. I said, I can't charge and be obedient to Christ. I just can't do it. So there has to be other ways to do this. And so, I mean, half of my time now is spent fundraising, which is like my least favorite thing in the world to do. But it's, no, everyone else, seminary now, Bible Project's free. And they do great 5-minute summaries. They're really good 5-minute summaries of biblical books, well worth spending time on, just for that first initial introduction. But just about everyone else. The other thing that we have that's different, first of all, I've handpicked professors from, I think it's 18 different seminaries now. Someone once called us the best seminary you can't go to, just because. There's a great title, isn't it? It's because I've handpicked the best professors in the world. And so that makes it unique. What also makes it unique is that we have 4 different levels of classes. So the basics are just if you know nothing at all about it. Foundations are geared more for, well, I don't know if it'd be you because of Mike's preaching. But a lot of churches, there's just not a lot of good Bible preaching going on. And foundations is for that. The academy is university level. That's probably more Ural's level. And then the institute is seminary. So doesn't matter where you want to enter into the process. We have the right level for you.
Yeah, and you also work on translation team for ESV and NIV too, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that process, because obviously we use the ESV translation, and so Bill Mounce being a part of that. What is, give us that meeting, give us that season when you guys come together. Like, what happens? How does it start? What's the process? Do you guys just kind of argue in a room and say, you're wrong, I'm right? All right, let's arm wrestle.
That's exactly what happens.
That's what we're trying to What is the process for us sitting on the outside?
Yeah, you want to say, oh, it's just really godly, and they are godly, but, you get together and it's a Bible study. It's not. It's just you argue. But you argue because every word matters. I found the other day that in the fruits of the Spirit, the word for patience doesn't mean patience. It's patience in the midst of suffering. It's a specific word for that meaning. And so the fruit of the Spirit is not what gives you patience at a traffic light. If you all are patient, you all like to honk your horn. My goodness. I'm sorry, I didn't step on the accelerator within a half a second of a green light.
That's about right, yeah.
But the patience that comes from the Spirit is patience in the midst of suffering. So anyway, so I was running the Greek program at Gordon Conwell and got a call from Wayne Grudem. And Lane Dennis, the publisher at Crossway, had this idea, he and Lane did together, of updating the RSV. The RSV is a very good translation. But in certain key passages, it was not evangelical friendly. Mary was no longer a virgin. Jesus was not God in Romans 9. RSV is a young lady or young woman will have a child, not a virgin will have a child. And so there was that kind of stuff. But I was the New Testament chair, and we spent 10 years. I still remember the publisher. He had no idea what he'd gotten into. So we're sitting in I don't know where we're everywhere. Everyone had their Bibles open. He opened it to Genesis 1, and he goes, okay, any suggestions for Genesis 1? It took us a week to get out of Genesis 1. He had no idea of the financial obligation. But Lane's a great guy. We met at least once a year for 10 years before the first one came out. And if you have that first printing, save it. I left out one of the sins in 1 Timothy 1. Not on purpose. And so they know the little story. There's about a sinful Bible, thou shalt commit adultery, one of the old King James. Well, that first printing is the sinful ESV. There are a whole lot of weird words, and I just had missed it and didn't get that one in. I called Lane. Lane mortgaged his house to get the first ones printed. And I said, I am so sorry, Lane. I left off a sin, and, well, we got it in right away. And then I got off that committee because it really wasn't supposed to keep meeting. And then
how many guys were we talking about when you say committee doing translation?
This is a very biblical. There's 12.
Oh, there you go.
Very biblical.
That sounds good.
Actually, good. I think it was kind of important to Lane that to be 12. So J.I. Packer was the general editor, and Kent Hughes was on the committee, and Lane and Wayne, and then a bunch of other people. So what happened, I was sitting around talking to my wife, Robin, and I said, I just really miss translation. I've been out for about 3 years. And the next day, I got a letter from Doug Moo inviting me onto the NIV translation committee as a, quote, friendly critic. I think the assumption was I would try to turn the NIV into the ESV, which I didn't try to. And so I've been on the NIV committee since 2010. So I came in on if you buy one now, you've bought the 2011 edition, and so I came in on 2010 and spent 3 weeks. Talking about arguing, I mean, great, mostly gracious, and we spent 3 weeks locked in Whistler up in Canada, and mostly arguing about gender language. That is not the way to start a committee. It was like, because you don't have a feel for the other people. You don't know biases and what's pushing them. But anyway, we got it done. So that committee meets once a year, last full week in June, every year.
And then when you so let's just say you're going through, Gospel of John, just take that letter. Is it you take this section, you take this, or is everybody working on this at the same time, same pace?
The whole committee makes all decisions.
Right.
In Whistler, in order to get done, we had to break into 2 committees, but then each committee approved the work of the other committee. So it's done by in our case, 15 people. Yeah.
And then once one revision goes out or update goes out, how soon do you start working on the next ones? Because you have, every 10 years or 12 years comes a new.
If I answer that question, they will fire me.
Okay, we'll stop there.
Quite. They want. I mean, these books cost millions of dollars to print, millions of dollars, and so there's a cycle. I don't know what the cycle is, but what we did starting in 2011 is that we all went back to Genesis, and the committee's been just plodding its way through the Bible, and we're making good progress. So there'll be another one coming out. They kind of want the editions to be, what's the word they use? Generational. So when the next generation comes up, y'all, English is changing so fast, you just can't imagine it. It is, and it's not just gender language anymore. It's subjunctives going away. The difference between can and may is gone, which I just hate. I hate the loss of precision. Who is taking the function of whom? And if you're a grammar nerd, you probably just broke out into cold sweat. One of the beauties of English is its precision. Greek is equally precise. Hebrew's horrible. There's no precision in Hebrew. Now, Miles would get after me for saying that. But Hebrew doesn't have the precision that other languages do. So when I go from Old Testament to New Testament, you kind of, okay, I actually know what the Greek says, but English is losing it. And so, what about contractions? Here's an interesting question. I mean, if you speak without contractions, people will look at you funny now. I don't know if you'd notice that or not, but contractions are formally acceptable English grammar. Does God speak in contractions? Why not? Koine is everyday Greek. It's what the everyday person spoke. Does God have to sound weird, old? I'm not answering what our decision was on that, but those are the kinds of things that we deal a lot with. We spent 2.5 days getting rid of every surely. Surely this will happen. I still say surely, but apparently people don't. Anyway.
I want a translation that just says y'all instead of saying.
There is a y'all translation.
Is it?
Yeah, it's
Good.
on Bible Gateway.
Know. I'm gonna start preaching.
It's on
from
Bible
that.
Gateway. You can preach out of that.
Yeah, I will.
That and the Cotton Patch would be the two you could use.
When you look at just your Christian life, who's been some of the most influential people just early on, even now, still to this day, that you look up to and strive after as they imitate Christ?
I mean, I'm sure my mom and dad are at the top. That's interesting. I should know that. I had a phenomenal seminary professor, George Ladd, who wrote a book called A Theology of the New Testament that was the single most impactful book in my life. He was a deeply flawed person, deeply flawed. But his book, and if you ever want to read just a magnificent theology book, biblical theology, get George Ladd's A Theology of the New Testament. I mean, that book impacted me more than almost anything, I think. I have a few good friends, and they've just iron sharpening iron kind of stuff. That's odd. I don't know. I'll think about that.
We'll have you back for part 2. And we'll start with
you know who my board members are my best friends. Almost all of them are my best friends. I've got a phenomenal board. They love me. They love the Lord. They love biblical training. They're heavily committed to it. And I actually look forward to board meetings just because these are such good friends. And they probably have more of an impact on me than just about anyone else.
Oh, it's a good team to have around you.
Yes, it is.
That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about your family. So you mentioned Robin, how long you've been married, and tell us about your children, adult children.
I would have to say right off the bat that I'm 8 years older than Robin. It's very important to her that you know that. I just turned 73. She's 65. I always dated very bookish girls. And then I just fell in love with Robin overnight. I married the cheerleader. She's a people person. Her empathy level is off the charts. I tell people, be really careful, because in 5 minutes, Robin will know more things about you than you know about yourself. It's just a God-given gift. And so we got married. Let's see. We met on December 26th skiing. My mom set us up as a blind date, lied through her teeth. I had been a ski coach in Colorado, and so Mom told me that Robin wanted a ski lesson. Mom told Robin that it's lonely being on a lift with 3 people, my brother and his wife and I, so Bill really needs a 4th person with him.
How long after did you find out that story?
Pretty quickly, because she said, I just wish the Lord would drop my husband out of the sky, and I was on a ski lift, and I put my leg over it, and I said, here I am. We just knew the Lord put it in our hearts that we were going to get married. And so we got engaged on my birthday on February 17th and married in July 2nd. All at long distance. First 2 years were difficult as we actually figured out who we had married. But anyway, Robin's great. And but we're night and day. We're just totally different. And some of the more difficult things in our lives is that we lost 2 children. One is a miscarriage and one 4 hours after birth. And it was leaning into the pain that made our marriage. I think the statistics are something like 80%, 85% of couples divorce after the death of a child. And Rose and Rachel is what made our marriage. because we decided we would lean into the pain together. And, yeah, thanks. And then 9 months after Rachel died, we adopted my firstborn. And people know that we have one adopted child. No one's ever guessed Tyler. No one, which drives my daughter nuts because you should guess him. Well, anyway, nobody guesses Tyler. And then 14 months later, Kirsten was born. And then 5 years later, Hayden was born. I got 3 great kids. We made the mistake of telling them, go wherever you want, do whatever you want, we'll come visit. So Kirsten lives in Berlin. We're going there in spring. No, September. Tyler lives in Tustin, and Hayden lives in Portland. Tyler is a marketer. He does all the marketing for biblical training. Kirsten works for museums and gives tours and can do it in multiple languages. And Hayden lays tile. And Dad said, it's the only job, if you have a little bit of OCD, it's a good thing.
He's got a tile man right here. Just made him happy.
Because every tile is perfect if you have OCD. And so great kids, a lot of different places. They're all connected. They all love the Lord. They've all been on their own journeys, but they're in a good place for the journey right now.
Amen. Well, kudos to Tyler because the website looks great. I was scrolling through there, and I'm like, man, like everything, thumbnails, and just even the first glimpse of it is spectacular. So,
oh, good, thanks.
He knows what he's doing. I'll say that.
He does.
Oh, that's awesome. So, and grandkids.
Tyler and Rachel have 3.
Yep.
Finley's 5. Boston is 3. Deacon is 9 months. And then Hayden married Shiloh, and she's half Palestinian, which makes for very interesting conversations. And her mom is from the middle part of Eastern Europe. And so they had their first baby, and his name is Radik Asim. And unfortunately, we told Robin's dad, who's 90 now, he couldn't remember Radik's name. And Robin said, well, it's like radish. So he calls him Radish all the time. And we said, Dad, you got to call him by his name. His name is Radik. So that's Slavic, and Asim is Arabic. So, yeah, so those are our kids, and there'll probably be a few more coming.
Awesome. Yeah, it reminds me of my great-grandmother. She couldn't pronounce my name, and she gave up on it earlier, and she called me Man. And that became my family nickname because she refused to call me Kellen. She's like, it's too difficult. His name is Man. And that till this day, that's what my family calls me because it's like, I'm not doing that. Y'all should have made it more easy, which I thought it was easy. So anyway, yeah. Well, wow. So y'all are going out there next in September. It's a lot of travel.
Yeah. She tried to get us come Christmas to go snow hiking in the Alps. And I go, no, I don't. I have enough snow in Ione. I don't.
Right. Yeah.
I don't go snow hiking in the Alps. So we'll go September.
Favorite part of being a granddad, grandpop. What do they call you? Greek granddad.
Hey, call me CG.
CG. All right. What's the favorite?
It stands for Crazy Grandpa.
Oh, okay.
my son, I think, came up with that name, but it's now set, and I'm CG and Robin's grandma. So.
What's your favorite part, though? It has to be, I mean, you're going to visit them. What do you love most about being crazy CG?
They come up every summer, and Finley's just old enough to start wakeboarding. And so dragging them around on inner tubes and just providing a kind of an unusual place for them to come for Tyler and Rachel to rest. And that's a lot of fun. Hey, I'll tell you another thing. It's back to another thing you said. It just occurred to me. So our second daughter who died was Rachel. Tyler married a Rachel. And I got everyone bawling at the wedding rehearsal when I told the details of that story. And it's great. And then Boston, they named their second child Boston because they love Boston. But they called, her name is Boston Rose, and Rose was our first child. So it's kind of Tyler just kind of keeps the cycle going, which is neat.
That's awesome. I want to ask you about one of the other books that's been very impactful to a lot of people, and we have it here, is Why I Trust the Bible. And tell us a little bit about that book, because that's different than what, the Greek books and all that. But how did that come about, writing that? And tell us about that one.
Yeah, that was a very different book. Everything I've written is Greek reference books and whatnot. I wrote a 700-page commentary on the pastoral epistles, but that's kind of a lot of Greek too. But we have class. I mean, one of the two questions of the day is, can I trust my Bible? It's being attacked by Bart Ehrman, by people on social media. I mean, the Bible's always been attacked, but this is an especially ferocious attack on the Bible. And so we have a series of classes on it on biblical training. If you go to biblicaltraining.org/trust, all the classes will pop up that deal with this issue. And I realized that I've always published with Zonovan. Zonovan actually is my family. It's a great organization. And I realized that they didn't have a single book on the topic. So I had done a kind of a summary class on why I trust my Bible. I just took the table of contents and sent it to Zonovan and said, why don't you have a book like this? And I've never seen a book go through publication board so fast. I had a contract in a week and 1 year to write it. And so it came about of that. It just seems that no matter where I go, not many people are that curious about Greek, but they're really curious about all the contradictions in the Bible, or there's more errors in the Greek manuscripts than there are words, and these kinds of charges. And so it was a fun book to write. I tried to write it more as a pastor would write than as an academic would write. I don't know if I was successful or not, but it's Why I Trust the Bible, and it's done very well. And
yeah, and if you hadn't got a chance to check that book out, we have it in the bookstore, and it's excellent. And I do agree with that. It's not as heady. I think I feel like the readability of it is great, and it helps you just from a standpoint of answering a lot of those questions that people just throw out there just because they're parroting a lot of what they've heard before. They don't even know why they believe what they're saying half of the time, but it digs down to help you understand why we can trust the Bible. Apart from anything else that we trust.
I should add, it's broken into sections, and each section has 2 chapters. The first chapter is more just the introduction, the basics, and that chapter is normally enough for most people. The second chapter in each section goes into a lot more detail. So if you get it, and if you read the first chapter in a section, you go, okay, that's okay, then just skip to the next section. But there are some real crazies out there. I mean, and people will bring up these, well, I don't think Jesus ever lived. I mean, that's seriously argued that Jesus never lived. And, a lot of these people, like you said, they're just parroting what they've heard. The gospel writers changed the message of Jesus, just on down the line. And so, but the advice I give people and relative to all of these things is, can you give me an example? Oh, I can't believe the Bible because of all the contradictions. Okay, let's find one. Let's talk about it. Well, there's just so many of them. Well, then it probably should be easy for you to find it, huh? That's the way to end the conversation. But it's just on all of these things, Bart Ehrman's famous line, there's 400,000 errors in all the manuscripts of the Bible that we have, New Testament that we have. And so there's 138,000 Greek words in the New Testament. He says there's 400,000 errors. And he stopped for a second and go, well, wait a minute. Someone's playing with statistics. If you have 138,000 words, you can't have 400,000 errors. But I would just say, these are smoke screens. So you always start by saying, well, which of the differences among the manuscripts bothers you the most? Of course, they don't have an answer for it. They don't know it. So that's actually, where I learned that was here when we filmed Sean McDowell's apologetics class in one of the classrooms. Was that 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, I remember that.
And Sean is great for always starting by listening. And after a while, I got a little tired of answering him questions because I knew I was going to get the same answer. Well, Bill, you start by listening. And he's very effective at that approach. And so I said, that's what we need to do. Because if somebody says, well, Jesus never did any miracles. They just made them up because that's what you did to make people seem important. One of the charges. And you don't know whether they actually believe that or whether they've heard it on Instagram and it's a smokescreen because they don't want to deal with Christ himself. And you've got to get past the smokescreen to know what the real issue is. Because what you don't want to do is to go into this discussion of the 6,000 Greek manuscripts we have the New Testament and why they're reliable, if that's not really the issue. So you always start by asking, find out where they really are. And a lot of that's in the book.
Excellent, excellent. Well, yeah, check that book out. And then Greek for the rest of us is another one to pick up for sure. And start to learn more about God's word. And I love how you put it, learn it directly from the source, not taking, different levels of people's opinions and their understandings of it when you can go straight to the original text yourself. Just comes with some work, but there's a blessing to that of knowing truly what God said and the original language that it was written. So good. Well, I know we have some prayer requests that I want to get to because every time we have an interviewee up here, we want to make sure that even beyond today that we continue to pray for you and all that you're doing. And so I know you've given us a few bullets to put up here to pray for, but give us a little bit more context so we can continue praying.
Yeah, I started biblical training in 2000. I'm 73 years old. I've read enough books about how to kill a nonprofit, and one of the sure ways is for the founder to hang on. And I have no intention of killing biblical training. So we've had one CEO. We did not do a proper CEO search. It was disastrous. But now we're on a proper search committee search for a CEO. And it's scary because will that person continue with the mission? And that's the board has to make sure this person does continue on the mission. But we have like 900,000 accounts or something, and about 1 million people a year come to the site. That's a drop in the bucket compared to the 3.8 billion people. Who, if you have those 10 languages. And so what we need is a CEO that's savvy enough to stay true to the mission and define new networks and new ways. We've got the content. Now we have to exploit the content properly. So translations, getting into other networks. I'm working with Evangelical Free Church. They have a Spanish outreach called Gateway. They don't have a single Spanish class. I got a bunch of Spanish classes coming. So the CEO is very important. Board members get old. They get tired. And we're at about 12, and we're down to about 7 now. Just people are rolling off because they get tired or different things happen. And so if you ever worked on a board, I got one board member that says be very slow to get a new board member because you can't get rid of them. And so one bad board member can destroy a board, can change its atmosphere, can drag it down, can talk all the time, this kind of stuff. And so needing new board members that have the vision. Dave Hubbard, the old president of Fuller, said board members have to have 2 of the 3 W's, work, wealth, wisdom. And that's kind of the grid that we use for looking for new people. So I really appreciate your prayers on that. And then fundraising. Fundraising is a pain in the neck. You got to do it. And sometimes I get, Lord, why don't you just put the money there and let me get the content and don't waste time. Well, it's not wasting time, but spending time. Like I have to go fly to the East Coast in a couple of weeks to meet a guy who gave us a lot of money, and I need to meet him. And that's fine. I like building relationships. That's not the issue. I just think of all the content that's not being created while I'm on an airplane. But anyway, but you got to do it. And I've learned that. I said, Lord, why don't you just give us a ton of money? Because you've got it. That sounds like any CEO, right? Yeah. But here's the problem with endowments. You stop trusting the Lord. And I've been told that repeatedly, that you need to always rely on the Lord. And if you get too much money coming in, you stop relying on Him. Now, we just got 2 massive grants. We are producing a seminary level class and a lay level class on every book of the Bible. And that's really cool. And then we got another huge grant to start turning classes into Spanish. So the first time in 25 years, I've been able to actually plan because we have the money. But I didn't say that the way I should have said that. Fundraising is a constant challenge of faith, but the good part is you get to know people. And I do enjoy that. So I made it too negative. I want to retract. It's just you get to meet people. I'm going to meet a guy in Virginia, buys and sells big buildings as far as I can tell. He's interesting to talk to. He has a real heart that classes not be just data, but have spiritual growth built into the warp and woof of the actual class. So we'll have his name's Coleman, and we'll have a good time talking about how do you do that? How do you take people? I tell people, my example is, if I were to sit in a class and the lecture was on Son of Man, okay? Son of Man is Jesus' favorite name for himself. It comes primarily out of Daniel, some out of Ezekiel. Son of Man is comes with the clouds of heaven. He's an object of worship, i.e. he's God. And Jesus is the Son of Man. And you do that in a class and you go, okay, that was interesting, but you completely missed the point. That Jesus is coming in clouds of heaven with the Ancient of Days and is the object of worship. And every class that ever discussed Son of Man, you should be on your knees when you're done. That's what we want to do. That's what Coleman's heart is. So how to change the nature, and it's really a changing of the nature of education, where it's not just data accumulation, but it's like, okay, the so what? Reflect on it, apply it. What did I learn about God, myself, and others in this particular class? And how do you respond properly to who Jesus is? You guys are so fortunate. You're not lucky. You're fortunate to have Mike, Pastor Mike, because he will direct you to God. That's what he does, right? He's not about you feeling good about yourself. He wants you to keep focused on God. In fact, he may want you to not feel good about yourself. I don't know. But that's unusual, and most pastors don't know how to do that, to push people through the text to spiritual growth, to becoming more like Jesus, to loving him and loving your neighbor. So that's what I get to meet some of these kinds of people in my fundraising tours.
Awesome. Well, that's awesome. And yeah, that's what it's all about, right? We want to love God and love others as he's called us to, but every act of studying and even what you're doing, these trainings and all that stuff, it should lead to spiritual growth and us loving God more. So I love it and love hearing that. And we will certainly pray for these things, but I want to give Bill Mounce another round of applause for coming out and spending time with us this morning. And
Thank you.
I will conclude our time with praying for these things right here. So let's pray together. God, we do thank you so much for how you call people to your mission, and you use people in great ways as your vessels and instrument, as you have done with Bill Mounce over the years, with just really digging down into the original language of the New Testament and allowing people to understand it in, as he said, a compartmentalized and a simplified way. And I know, even for myself and many others, that it has just been a great blessing to be able to just have a better understanding of your word, which, as we just mentioned, should lead us not to just more head knowledge, but to lead us to more worship of you and greater worship of you. And so I just pray that you would allow him to continue to have that desire and that energy and stamina to continue to press on for your glory and honor, as long as you have him here and doing great work with biblical training and just even going out and teaching and preaching in different places. And I specifically want to pray for this new CEO with biblical training. Lord, we know you have that person already identified. We just pray that you would give them the diligence and the wisdom to find whomever that is, and I pray that that person would have the same vision and heart and passion to take it even to the next level, that that individual would be able to not just look at what's in front of them, but be a visionary to see how impactful that this free training can be, not only in the English language, but across many languages. And so, Lord, I pray that you would continue to use biblical training for just a worldwide spiritual growth opportunity for many people, train up many leaders and pastors and even lay people to know your word and to love you even better. Lord, I pray for the board members that you would bring new ones in, as Bill just mentioned. Lord, I pray that they would all have the right heart, the right motive, that they wouldn't come being divisive in any way, but they would all be united, not necessarily agreeing on everything, but united in the common goal of you being glorified above all things. And so please help to identify them, and do pray for those givers that are financially blessing this biblical training ministry, so that people can receive this education that many seminaries out there and even other things are putting a price tag on, making it unavailable for people. Lord, it's such a great thing to see this happening all for free. So many hours, so much time and commitment, knowing that the heart is they just want to see people know your word better, know you better, and to be able to continue to make disciples. So give them just people that are generous, and I know they have so many that are doing that. Lord, I pray that those that are doing it, you would bless them. You would allow them to feel encouraged, to know that their financial blessing to this ministry is allowing your church to continue to advance. And we know your word tells us that the gates of hell will not prevail, and you were doing things like biblical training, this ministry, and all other Bible teaching to continue to advance your mission and build your church here. And so we just pray that you would give them much strength and energy as they continue on. And just thank you again for Bill being here with us this morning, taking the time out to let us know a little bit more about who he is and what's going on in his life, so that we can pray and continue to encourage him here at Compass Bible Church, as he's been a blessing to us as well. So thank you again for this morning, and we just pray that you would please with it all. In Jesus' name, amen.